Welcome back to the Crush Your Mountain podcast. Are you unknowingly shaping your child's future in ways you never intended? Well, in today's episode, we're diving deep into child development, parenting strategies, as well as addiction recovery with the incredible Martha Burich, an educator, parent, and addiction recovery advocate. Martha's insights aren't just her opinions, they are backed by research. Case in point, when it comes to parenting and mental health, studies show that secure parent-child relationships reduce the risk of anxiety and depression in children. That's according to the 2021 study from the Harvard Center on Developing Child. In terms of the power of boundaries, research from the American Psychological Association confirms that setting limits fosters self-discipline as well as resilience in children. Now, we all love our phones, and we introduce phones to our kids early these days, don't we? But a 2023 study in Pediatrics found that excessive screen time lowers parent-child communication quality. Now, that reinforces Martha's poignant story about a child longing for attention over a phone screen. That Martha has her own personal story in terms of alcoholism and recovery. And the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism states that structured peer support, like AA meetings, significantly increases long-term sobriety success. This episode, we cover how kids seek belonging and why it's crucial to provide a safe emotional home. And when you think about that, and the proliferation of street gangs and gang violence around the country and even the world, it comes down to children seeking belonging. And unfortunately, many times that's where they turn. Finally, we'll discuss why perseverance is the key to everything. Martha's mantra is don't just quit one day at a time. So get ready to crush your parenting goals and your personal growth journey. Let's hit play on this one, and I hope you watch to the end and enjoy this powerful discussion with educator, writer, addiction advocate, and teacher, Martha Burich. Martha Burich, welcome to Crush Your Mountain Wellness. And I'll tell you something, people don't realize that part of the overall health of an individual has a lot to do with the overall health of the family, especially and even our children. And so I'm really happy about speaking with you because you're a great source, considering the fact that your book is so amazing, discussing raising happy, responsible children. I take it you yourself have effectively done that. You look like someone who has raised responsible, happy children. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, Henry, I'm so happy to be here. And yes, I had one child of my own, but then I became a high school teacher. So, when you're a teacher, you have everybody's child. You're the secondary parent all day long. So yes, children and helping them find their way in the world is very important to me, and helping them find their place so that they belong. That feeling of belonging is so important for children.
What does it mean in terms of children belonging in this day and age? Because we have so many ways of quote unquote belonging. So let's define that for us and then break it down in terms of how that's applied to not just the classroom, but to the family.
That's really such a good question. People will go to any length to be accepted and to believe that they belong and they're appreciated. And sadly, a lot of parents, and my mother was one of them, think that if they praise their children or encourage their children, they're going to spoil them, and the child then won't behave right. So the parent thinks that their duty is to correct the child every time they're wrong. But in actuality, what happens when we do that, the child takes us out of their quality world, and the child doesn't turn to us for the things that they really want because they're not getting the appreciation and the feelings of acceptance and power, or, power is a word for um, people will do what I ask them to do. Not that I'm bossing people around, but when I ask someone to please bring me the salt or whatever, they'll do it. When I ask someone to, stop doing that, they'll stop because they appreciate me. They have enough respect for me. Well, children don't get enough of that. If they don't get that at home, they search
Mm-hmm.
elsewhere. And I was just on someone's show, and he became a gang member because he did not get acceptance at home, and he did not get appreciation at home, and he joined the gang. Now the gang did a lot of good things for the community, but they also did a lot of negative things, and he wound up in prison. So we need to be our best example for our children. I have a parenting method I call the 3 L's of parenting. Love them enough to say no, lead by example, and let them fail. And all three things are very, very hard for parents because it's so much easier just to say yes. The child pushes, I want that toy, I want that toy, I want that toy. No, I want that toy. No, I want that toy. Oh, okay. Get off my back. Leave me alone. Well, what'd you just teach the child? Oh, okay. It just takes 3 times to push you. However long it takes to push you, when you finally decide when no means no, that's how long you're going to have to keep your foot down. And you're going to go through some tough times. You're going to have tantrums and everything else until the child finally says, well, what do you know? They really mean it for once.
Well,
They
let me
say
ask you
no and
this.
they mean it.
Well, and that's very profound. The power of no those circumstances, so that they understand that they can't get everything that they want. But now, I thought that was interesting that you said to let them fail, and the reason why is because people in generations past were hard on the ones you better not fail. Okay,
Mm,
the child maybe gets a negative mark in school. You're a failure. You
mhm,
see, I do a lot of working out. I'm not a bodybuilder by any means. I just try to do it for the sake of health. And the concept that I learned was pushing to failure. So when you're
mhm,
doing a bench press, when you're doing a squat, when you're doing certain exercises, especially the pushing exercises, you want to reach that point to
mm.
failure. So now, why, from the perspective of raising a child, is allowing the child to fail a good thing for them?
Well, let's say, your 8-year-old comes home from school and they say, oh my goodness, they're having a play at school. They're having a play at school. And I'm going to try out for the lead. Oh, oh, I'm glad they're having a play, honey, but oh, the lead, you might not get it. Why don't you try out to be one of the trees? You could probably get that part. So what we do is immediately we try to teach our children not to go for what they really want, and and to be afraid of failure. Oh, well, I might not get that part, so I won't go for it. No, go for what you really want. Fail. The only way to win is to fail. The only way out is through. Um, did anybody ever learn to walk without falling down? No. Did anybody ever build a business without failure after failure after failure? Tony Robbins says people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. If you want to start a business, don't think you're going anywhere for a long time. It's a learning curve and it's everything else. And it's the same with children. Your children
Absolutely.
aren't going to be just suddenly miraculously these wonderful human beings who agree with you at every turn. No, there's going to be a lot of, they're little human beings. My dog doesn't agree with me all the time.
Uh, I'll tell you something. I get that. One of the challenges I've learned, or one of the things I've learned with my kids, and particularly with my granddaughters right now, is that they need to understand the blessing of failure, in the sense of this. One of them loves to play sports. She's a basketball player. She's on the basketball team, and she gets so down on herself when she loses. And I was able to ask her. I said, "Well, now tell me something. What happened during the thing? What did you learn from the game?" because and she says, and she told me how she did, what she could have done better, how she did this, how things should have gone. I said, so really, if you had not failed that, you never would have learned those lessons to become better, would you? That's the first thing that's important. The other
Right,
thing
exactly.
that I learned with my son and with dealing with a number of different kids is in their personal growth is when we shoot down their desire to achieve or to do, then what we're telling them is that we have no faith in their abilities.
Oh boy, isn't that the truth? Goodness
You see?
gracious,
And
yes.
when we don't express that in them,
Hmm.
we immediately sow those seeds of doubt in themselves and contribute to the lack of esteem. So now, when we decide that we want them to go for something that we want them to do, then we've already told them that they can't.
Right. Oh yeah. They're already doubting themselves. Yes. And
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, what the greatest basketball player of all time, was kicked off his high school team. And what did the coach say to him? He said, "You just don't want it bad enough. You're
Mm,
not working hard enough." Michael Jordan. So, but it was that failure that made him realize, wait a minute, I guess he thought he was a natural athlete. I don't have to practice.
mhm.
And then you hear all these stories when you start listening to their trainers talking. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant
Kobe Bryant, yes.
would be the first ones 4 o'clock in the morning. If the trainer said, "I'm going to be there at 4:30," he'd walk in that room, and Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant would already be there before
Right.
him.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the concept, you see. And when you're working with children, you're steering them and actually aiming them. Even the it says there in the book of Psalms that, and I'm not getting all religious on people, but it's one of those powerful quotes that that sons and children in general are like arrows in the arsenal of
Mm,
a warrior, but it has to be aimed.
mm,
So each aiming of the arrow is a potential. It helps us to know, so we have to know how to aim it, how much tension to put on at the right time, and when to let it go.
No, that's a good point. And and you made me think the aim or what you're aiming at is the goal. So that's why we need goals. I work with addicts and alcoholics, and I go to the jail every Monday and talk to the female addicts and alcoholics, and I go every Wednesday to the treatment center. And I always tell them, I say, look, you have got to have a plan for your future. Live for today, but if you don't have a goal that you're striving for, you're just going to keep falling down because you don't have anything to look forward to. So you start thinking now, what's the job you really want? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to, get a romantic relationship? You start thinking about these things that are important to you. Do you want to buy a home? Start thinking about a really big goal that's important to you that's going to help you get through the day when you're in a bad mood, when things don't go your way, where you can say, well, you know what, no matter what happens, I will not drink or drug today, so that you can get to tomorrow, so that you can start work on your goals. And if the more days that you have clean and sober, guess what? Tomorrow takes care of itself, and the things that you were working for show up because you spent your time working for them.
And that's a lovely point, and I appreciate that because you probably notice that substance abuse often starts when the children are part of the household and part of the school system. You probably notice how many times the children are there in the classroom and maybe they're drinking. I'll tell you, um, one of full disclosure here, I'm not a perfect human being, which is a shock to so many people. Um, but back when I was in school, high school, I remember it was a cold day like today. I was on my way and I said, man, it's freezing. And a schoolmate says, you want something to warm you up?
Mm-hmm.
I said, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Pulls out a bottle of Southern Comfort. I was warm, pretty warm that day, but it starts early.
Yeah.
I don't drink. I've never been a big drinker anyhow, but just shows you the point that it starts that early. And this young fellow, okay, this young fellow in particular, um, was pretty well known. And at that early age, he had been drinking for quite some time and
Mm.
carried a 350 millimeter bottle with him to school. To
What grade
school.
was this? What grade was this, Henry?
Now, in this case, this was the 11th grade.
Okay. All
But if
right.
this was the 11th grade,
So
how
you're
long had
talking
he
about
been doing it?
16, 17, 15, 16, or 17, right around that age. Yeah.
Around that age, yeah.
Still too young. That's still way too
Very
young.
much too young. Very much young. The adult, okay, your brain is not fully developed until you're about
Yeah.
26 years old. So
Right.
adolescence ends a lot later than we think.
Mm-hmm.
So that begs the question, how do you help an individual to understand that manhood and womanhood is a standard as opposed to a legal matter? How do you do that?
Boy, that's a really good point. I do want to go back and talk about saying no, because children who don't hear no from adults don't know how to say no to themselves. And you're making the exact point here. You know, learning how to say no to yourself, and I think we're getting into your question here. You have to be able to say no to yourself. So that means, well, like you said, you go to the gym. So you go to the gym, but you get up and you're like, I don't feel like going to the gym today. But you say, no, I'm going to the gym. No, I'm not going to sit here in bed with the covers up. No, I'm getting out of the bed. I'm putting my shoes off. I'm going to the gym. I do the same thing. And if we don't learn to say no to ourselves, we become people who make everyone else miserable and ourselves. People who can't say no to themselves become obese. They become alcoholics, drug addicts. They're not very pleasant to be around because they want everything their own way. And they don't really know how to navigate life very well because they're always blaming everybody else for everything that happens to them. So they don't take responsibility and they can't get control. You know, how can I get control if I blame you? I can't get control. I can't go to the gym because so and so kept me up late last night. You know, well, we went out drinking. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, right, exactly. So and so. It's always so and so. And so we really have to, you know, learn how to say no to ourselves. And this is to be a good example. How can we expect our children to accept the answer no if we can't even say no to ourselves? And leading by example is, you know, I can't tell my child, put your phone away if I'm on my phone all day long. A school counselor told me once that she had one of her students, little third grader, came into her room and said, you know, I wish my mother would look at me half as much as she looks at her phone. That's pretty sad. This is the kind of world that we're getting now. Children are not getting attention. They're not,
Yes.
and the attention they're getting is negative. They're only being talked to when they're misbehaving
Yes.
instead of when it's having a nice conversation. So I really recommend for you parents out there, be in a good mood. If you're going to talk to your child about misbehavior, calm yourself down. Wait until both of you are calm and sit down and say, I really want to talk to you about such and such, and stay calm and say, what do you think about this? One woman was talking to her child about, I'm really concerned you're on your phone so much and you play video games.
Mhm.
And the child even said to her, yeah, mom, you know what? I'm concerned too. And she goes, well, can we come up with a plan? And they did. They came up with a plan. But, the both of them had the problem. Not
Yes.
just the child, the both of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. And oftentimes that's the challenge right there, because many times we start complaining about our children doing certain things, not realizing they're merely imitating what we do.
Yep.
Oftentimes we fall fall into that trap. You see, and we say don't say, we repeat that the mantra of hypocrisy, don't do as I do as I say, right? Yeah, but the reality is sometimes we don't even know what we do.
That's right. That is
And
so true.
so we need to sit back and examine what we do and
Mhm.
then make the change. You see?
Right. And what a lot of people don't understand, Henry, is the family really is the basis of society. So if you
Yes.
have a lot of unhappy families, you have an unhappy society. And children learn how to behave by looking at the adults in their world, in the family. Mom and dad are the first two. And something else I want to bring up is, if you're divorced, do not speak poorly of your ex-spouse. That
Mm,
makes life very difficult for your children, very difficult, because then your child doesn't know. The child thinks that they have to speak poorly about their dad or their
mm,
mom in order to make you
mm,
happy.
mm,
And that children can't handle that. That is not fair. Mind your business. And unless there's abuse, you need to only speak well of your spouse or don't speak at all. Because if the child has to go over there and visit and you're bad mouthing them all the time, how do you think the child feels? Plus, the child loves that person. Then the child feels this sense of divided loyalty. Well, God, can I love my mom? Can I love my dad? Well, then the other parent will be mad at me. It's not fair to put a child in that position.
mm,
So try to grow up yourself. And I know it's difficult. And what's really sad about divorces is you well, this is a good thing. You married that person. They must have had good qualities, okay?
mm,
They
mm,
had good qualities. You married them for a
mm.
reason. Try to look back and think of those things and then don't speak poorly of them to your children.
Very good point. Very good point. I love talking with individuals like you, and because of your deep insights. But just like everybody else, your insights, it comes from your experiences.
Mhm.
You yourself have been in dark places. And you talk about those dark places. And because of your being there, you actually help other individuals who likewise are in dark places. Tell us about your struggles, because that's the crux of what the show, Crush Your Mountain. What are the
Mhm.
dark places in terms of the alcoholism that you've experienced in life?
Well, most of my life I was a weekend drinker. I always knew the definition of an alcoholic is you can't drink just one. One's too many, 20's not enough. And I always knew that. So I would drink on basically on the weekends because I always had jobs I liked. I guess you could have called me a functional alcoholic. And functional alcoholics are the one that run home Friday night. Can't get home quick enough Friday night to start partying on the weekend. I don't know why we call it partying. But anyway, so during my working life, I had really not much of a problem with it. But then once I retired, I had no reason to get up in the morning anymore. And, I really loved teaching, but I didn't have to prepare classes or anything like that. So the next thing you know, I'm drinking every day. And then I'm drinking earlier and earlier in the day. And so I'm thinking, I tried and tried to stop, tried and tried to stop, Henry, and I couldn't. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I thought, Martha, you're still a young woman. What, you can drink yourself to death? You've got a lot of living left. What are you doing here? And so one night I was listening to a podcast and the host said, I dare you to ask God to make you quit. And I thought, ooh, no, 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 no. I'm not going to ask him to make me anything. That's how you wind up in jail or the hospital. I'll ask him to help me quit. And she was talking about any addictions, so that's what I did. And immediately, so I said, God, please help me. I can't stop. And immediately the thought came to my mind, well, go to AA. So I looked up the AA meeting and it was the next morning at 10 in the morning. So I showed up there and I haven't had a drink since. And that's been more than 6 years.
That's amazing. That's excellent that you're able to make that commitment to yourself, to help yourself. And that said, how do you keep the inspiration of sobriety going within you?
I help others. The best way to get out of yourself is to help others. And so that's why I go to the jail. That's why I go to the treatment center. And um, they need examples. And if I were to go back to drinking or doing things like that, who's going to be their example? They need, and plus, I live with my brother. My husband died. We were married 25 years, and my
Oh,
husband died of liver
I'm so
cancer.
sorry.
3 weeks, diagnosis to death. And
Wow.
then my husband died in September, and then my mother died 6 months later.
I'm
So
so sorry.
that was a kind of a rough time too. But we need people that we can depend on or believe in. But anyway, so after I retired, I moved in with my brother, and my brother had stopped drinking 30 years ago, at 36 now. And so, that's one of those, and I have a very strong belief in God. I have a very strong belief in God. And I believe it's a God thing. God's put me, when I sobered up, he put me in the home of someone who had 30 years of sobriety. What could be better than that? But not only that, one day I'm at an AA meeting. Now, you don't have to go to AA to stop drinking, but it helps. But there's so much help out there. But anyway, one day I'm at an AA meeting, and I said, man, I'm getting bored. I'm bored with these meetings. And a man across the table at the end of the meeting comes up to me and he goes, I'm on the corrections committee. Here's the application. Why don't you go to the jail? And I thought, you know what? Why not me? I taught high school. I ain't afraid of nobody. So next thing you know, I've been going to the jail for about 3 years now. And the way I got to the jail, this is an interesting thing too. When I got to the jail, one of the girls there was someone I knew who had come in and out of the program. And she said to me, she told me the story one time, and she said, I prayed and prayed that I could contact you. And then she said, and then one day you came walking in to lead these AA meetings every week. And she's been sober for years now. She's doing really, really good.
Great. That's great. Martha, you're such an amazing person and you're full of heart. You have a grand love for individuals, and that comes from your years of teaching and dealing with kids and loving kids. Then coming out of your own pains and darknesses to help others, and that sustains you. I have one last question. I want to thank you so much for being on the show because you're an incredible person. And I hope, hold your book up. I want people to see it. People have got to see the book. Hold it up. Yes, indeed. Yes. Bring it closer. Bring it closer. It's fading. It's fading. Okay. Because, okay, it's disappeared, but it's pull back now. You got to show it to the camera.
Yes, you can raise happy, responsible children. And you'll put the link below the show in the show notes. It's available at Amazon.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you're incredible. Okay, you're almost ghostly. You're disappearing behind a wall of books and coming back, but that's okay. We're just so happy to have you, and in addition to finding the book on Amazon, is there any other areas where we can find you?
Well, you know what? I have a Facebook group, Mastering Child Behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Or so you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, a YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. Just put my name in there. It'll pop up. If you Google me, my name, I come up first. And
that's good.
Many interviews I've been on pops up. So yeah, you can find me everywhere.
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what, we will search you out. And if you are looking to raise happy, responsible children, this is the lady that you want to talk to. And, the idea is to conceive and commit, refine and rework, undertake, sustain, and habituate. That's the idea of Crush Your Mountain. And I'm going to ask you, Miss Martha, what does it mean to you to crush your mountain?
Just don't quit. One day at a time. You know what? It's all going to work out. And just as long as you don't quit, it's all going to work out. Life is up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Just get used to it. And the people who win are the ones who don't quit. So just don't quit.
I love it. That's part of the mantra, part of the concept, you see, to undertake and sustain, to keep moving forward. Now, with your children, you never quit. You never give up on those children. You understand that, hey, you help them to start walking. You help them now to take the walk of life. You help them to learn how to talk. Now help them to learn the language of life. And the most important way of doing that is giving them the love that they need. Now, what are those 3 L's? You love them.
Lead them by example.
Lead them by example.
And let them fail. Love them enough to say no.
love them enough to say no. I love that. So we wanted you to keep that information in mind. We look forward to having you on again sometime in the future, and maybe doing some work together again as far as helping children, helping families as well. But in the meantime, friends, I just wanted to let you know that this is another excellent episode that you can file away. And we look forward to getting ready to talk with you again. We look forward to sharing more with you again. And until next time, don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. Thanks again. Thanks, Mark.